Good morning, aspirants. It's 1st of December today, and I welcome you all on today's edition of What to Read in the Hindu newspaper. I'm Rupam Jajmera, Senior Mentor at Prepis. While going through the articles, we will not only see its relevance with regard to prelims and mains, but we will also try interlink it with other GS papers as well. I am here to align your newspaper reading as a part of our GS syllabus. So let's get started. The very first article that is worth our attention in today's paper is about Cyclone Ditwa weakens, 3 die in rain-related incident. So when we map this particular article in our syllabus, this will fall under GS Paper 1, Geography, wherein knowing about cyclones, climatic phenomena, naming of cyclones are to be read and revised. Also relevant for GS Paper 3 under the theme Disaster Management. So the key theme that has been discussed over in this particular article talks about tropical cyclone behavior and disaster preparedness with regard to it. For prelims perspective, we need to know about cyclone formation, its conditions, sea surface temperature, Coriolis force, the effect of various factors that leads to formation of cyclones. Afterwards, how naming of cyclone is being done, IMD's early warning system, difference between tropical and extratropical cyclones or temperate cyclones. For mains perspective, we need to know about disaster management response gaps, increasing frequency and intensity of cyclones due to climatic change, coastal vulnerability mapping, and Sendai framework with regard to it. This is how this particular article is to be seen. Next important article is about police reforms as needs to transfer public perception of police, says PM. It is relevant for GS paper 2 under the theme governance and police reforms. The key theme that has been discussed in this particular article is about trust deficits and structural reforms is the need and way forward for changing the public perception of police altogether. For prelims perspective, we need to know about Police Act of 1861 versus Model Police Act of 2006. What is smart policing? The tools associated with it. Police forms under which schedule? Afterwards, knowing about CCTNS and ICJS. For mains perspective, the same article is to be seen through the lens of public trust, rule of law, community policing, pendency, manpower shortage, and politicization of police act types. So the solution for this is institutional reforms, as has been mentioned in Prakash Singh judgment's case. So this is a classic example of GS paper 2 governance, wherein several questions could be asked. The next important article for the day is on editorials page, and that majorly talks about animal right, institutionalizing animal representation. So this is relevant for GS paper 2 under the theme governance and policy, also relevant for GS paper 3 environment, wildlife conservation. The key theme that has been discussed in this particular article is we can try giving legal personhood for animals and several reforms with regard to institutional mechanisms can be done. For prelims perspective, the arenas that we have to filter from this particular article and that can be relevant for our exam is about Wildlife Protection Act and its amendment, Animal Welfare Board of India, constitutional provisions with regard to animal rights, such as Article 48A, 51G. Afterwards, knowing about PETA, several NGOs that are working in this regard. Also, the recent issues with regard to stray animals in the form of uh, wild street dogs, stray kettles. Afterwards, mains perspective, the same article is to be seen through the lens of on animal rights versus animal welfare, institutional gaps in representing animal interest, judicial precedents, has there been any with regard to it or not? This is how this particular article is to be seen from all the respective paper and important areas that we can look through. The next important article is about AIDS and TB fight. Tamil Nadu shows the ways again. So this is relevant for GS paper 2 health and GS paper 3 science and tech public health. The key theme that has been discussed over here is disease control and decentralized intervention is the need of hour. For prelims perspective, we need to know what is TB, the pathogen for it. Afterwards, the schemes that has been launched to control so far. The government of India planned to eradicate TB altogether by which year? Knowing about TB Mukt Abhiyan, Nikshay Portal, HIV and AIDS Control Act, WHO's 95 targets. For mains perspective, we need to know Tamil Nadu model, what exactly it is and how it can be replicated in other states as well. Then importance of surveillance with regard to primary health stigma reduction, which is very much important, and integrating it with technology for targeted intervention and outcome oriented policy. So this is the way forward to actual change on ground. The next important article that is there in the paper and which is important is India needs research pipeline. It is relevant for GS paper 3, science and tech, innovation and economy. Also R&D ecosystem, long-term innovation. For prelims perspective, we need to know STI policy, knowing about National Research Foundation, public versus private health spending trends across the globe, and in particular comparing it with India. Then afterwards TRL, which is technology readiness level. For mains perspective, we need to know about innovation to industry translation gap, which is persistent in India's economy. Why India struggles to commercialize its research, need for institutional funding ecosystem, and also comparing it with other global practices as well, wherein, for example, US DARPA model and EU's Horizon model with regard to research ecosystem improvements. Knowing about NRF and research spending stagnation that we see and need for mission-oriented research in this current time. This is how this particular article is to be seen. The last important article for the day is about Nicobar's biodiversity. New finds highlight Great Nicobar project sites biodiversity. Now, this is relevant for GS paper 3, environment, conservation, and GS paper 4, geography and islands ecosystem altogether in specific to hotspot islands. For prelims perspective, we need to know about coral reefs. What are they? The formations and an environment that supports their formation. Knowing about mangroves, littoral forest, scheduled species in Andaman and Nicobar, environmental impact assessment basics. From May's perspective, the same article is to be seen through the lens of ethical concerns of mega projects in ecologically fragile zones, indigenous communities' rights such as Shompin, and knowing about the tribes residing there, strategic versus ecological trade-offs, new biodiversity findings that strengthens conservation arguments. So this is how this particular article is to be seen. These were the 6 most important non-negotiable themes from today's Hindu newspaper. One can read all these articles, link it with several GS papers, and revise for prelims and mains angles as well. This is all from my end for today's Hindu newspaper. Till we meet for the next time.